I'm thrilled, I'm honored to be here for the launch and the excitement of the Brain Health Accelerator. This is a global collaboration to study brain diseases at the levels of cells and circuits to create more precise therapies. Why do I care? My name is Lisa Volanek and I have Parkinson's. Did you hear that? It was the pin drop. And that's usually what happens when I tell people that I have Parkinson's, because you're all sitting here going, she doesn't look like she has Parkinson's. And you see, that's the thing about brain disorders and diseases. They're not always visible, but they're always there, they're always progressing, and there is no cure. I was diagnosed back in 2014, and for a decade, I didn't tell people. It was my shameful secret. But I had a fight club, my close friends and family, and you know, the first rule of Fight Club is we don't talk about Fight Club. And then 2 years ago, a very good friend of mine said, you know what, I'd love to take you to the Michael J. Fox Gala because I'm performing. And I'm like, this sounds great, it's gonna be fun. And then that very same friend inadvertently, publicly outed me and my disease.
This is my friend Lisa. She has Parkinson's, and I've known her for over 20 years, and I knew her before she got Parkinson's. So we've kind of watched her go through it.
Did you kind of watch my head go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God? Because that's what was happening. Then Stevie went on to talk about a brain surgery that I had. If you're going to come out to the world that you have an incurable neurological brain disorder, how lucky are you to do it with Stevie Nicks, right? I mean, come on. So then, as Stevie does, she sprinkles her magic fairy dust, and since then I've started my own nonprofit. It is called This is Parkinson's. I share patient stories and kind of all the different faces of this disease. We're creating connection and community and comfort, and we're also sharing insights on the latest scientific research, because there are millions of people like me who are living with a brain disease or disorder, waiting for a cure, a therapy, or even just answers. And where do answers come? They come from science. And again, this is why I'm happy to be here today to celebrate the launch of the Brain Health Accelerator. It builds on more than 2 decades of brain science and discovery and knowledge. And here to tell us more is my new friend, Allen Institute President and CEO, Rui Costa.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. And thank you to all of you for being here. It is wonderful to see so many friends, colleagues, collaborators getting together for this launch. As Lisa mentioned, this all started over 20 years ago in a small laboratory about 2 miles north from here in the Fremont neighborhood of Seattle. As you can see, it wasn't a fancy laboratory, but the team was formidable and determined. And in just a few years, they produced a complete map of the expression of every gene in the mouse brain, and then they shared it openly with the world. Still today, millions of researchers use this resource. This was a game changer in the field of neuroscience. And it was a game changer for us at the Allen Institute, because we understood how we should do things and how to have impact. And since then, multidisciplinary teams, together with many collaborators around the world, have delivered on big projects of knowledge about the brain and shared this data openly, radically openly. This brain knowledge that came from gene expression maps, connectivity maps, cell type atlases, the tools, the AI models to understand it, this all together provides a launch pad that allows us for the first time to think about understanding precisely brain health and to precisely target brain disorders in a way that we didn't think it was possible until now. I mean, my own team just uncovered that a specific subtype of dopamine neurons dies first in Parkinson's disease. So today, we're proud to announce this new era of discovery in brain science at the Institute with the launch of the Brain Health Accelerator. Tackling brain health, it is a big job. It's a job for all. It's a job for humanity. And that's why we invited so many others to join us. And together, we will build a healthier world. And now, to tell us more about the project, I want to invite here the leader of the Brain Health Accelerator, Ed Lean. Ed, take it away.
This day has been a long time coming. Good morning, and thank all of you for joining us. Over the last 2 years, we've been developing the vision for a new initiative called the Brain Health Accelerator, with extensive engagement of the community. And I'm really excited to publicly launch this today with our partners and describe what this is. I'd like to start off by illustrating the magnitude of the problem that we're trying to solve, though, building on what Lisa showed with us. You know, unfortunately, as we all know, Lisa's story is not unique. A staggering statistic, 1 in 3 people worldwide will suffer from some form of neurological condition over the course of their life. 1 in 3 of you. Just an exercise. Look to the left and look to the right. One of you is going to end up suffering from some form of condition that affects the brain and spinal cord. And collectively, these now are the leading cause of ill health and disability worldwide. These numbers are really kind of hard to grasp. 57 million people suffer from neurodegenerative diseases. These include Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Lewy body disease, Huntington's, ALS, and more. All of these involve progressive dysfunction and loss of neurons in the brain and nervous system. These are life-altering conditions. They affect cognition, movement, speech, eventually independence, and there are no cures, and for most of these, not even effective treatments. These are some of the most difficult challenges in healthcare, and translating discoveries, despite huge advances in studying the brain, translating those discoveries into therapies has proven to be extraordinarily difficult. Just to give an example, 98% of Alzheimer's drug candidates fail in clinical trials, and those that are currently available give only modest benefits at best. This is frustratingly, agonizingly slow progress, and we really need a different model to take this on. So why is the failure rate so high? It's really worth dissecting this problem a little bit to understand this. The first problem is simply complexity. The brain is not like other organs, and it can't be treated the same way. It's astonishingly complex. Just from a cellular perspective, we now know that the brain is more complex than the rest of the body combined. This complexity is why a lot of disease research and neuroscience research is done in model systems, simpler systems where we can sort of have a more tractable approach, but they often don't translate when you get to models for disease. The other thing is that the human brain is extremely challenging to study. It's largely inaccessible during life. Much of what we learn comes from the extraordinary generosity of patients and the families who choose to donate brain tissues for research after life. Access to high-quality brain tissues remains a bottleneck for the entire field. Another reason, and I really want to highlight this because this is incredibly important, is the reality of how we do science. Too much of science is done in silos. We tend to separate discovery from translation, basic research from disease research. Communities that study molecules, cells, circuits, and function are typically separate. We study diseases independently, even when they share common biology. We could move so much faster and more effectively if we brought together these disciplines, diseases, types of data. And I'll say it again, we desperately need a different model to accelerate progress. Okay, so I've outlined some of the challenges. Now I want to move to solutions. And I'd like to really promote a very positive perspective and outlook on where things are going. We're at a technological tipping point now, where I think hope and optimism come from advances in science and technology. Trying to study the human brain has been difficult, and we've been really technology limited in the tools that we have to study the brain. But we now have a really incredible toolkit to analyze and understand that complexity at the level of its components, its cell types. I want to particularly highlight one transformative technology called single-cell transcriptomics, or single-cell genomics as a suite of technologies that came from the Human Genome Project, from a totally different field, and it's really totally transforming the field now. This is extremely stimulated by the NIH Brain Initiative and its investments in both tools and the application of those tools. What these tools let us do now is to define and analyze cells based on the genes that they use. This is a key linkage now. We can move from genes to cells to the circuits that they form. It's an unusually powerful place in the structure of the brain. And if you apply these technologies at scale, as we have here at the Allen Institute, we get something really remarkable. A complete map of the types of cells that make up the brain and their spatial organization within the brain. This is a foundational reference like nothing before. Part Human Genome Project, part GPS for the brain. And by mapping data from individuals with disease to this foundational reference, we can now define the specific types of cells that are affected in disease. So for example, through our Seattle Alzheimer's Disease Brain Cell Atlas Project, or CAD, we've been able to identify that very specific types of cells are affected early in disease, very specific types of inhibitory neurons. So whereas the field is mostly focused on removing proteins, removing amyloid plaques or neurofibrillary tangles, we can now really get at what's happening directly in the brain that leads to cognitive decline, and that presents new targets for intervention. In one fell swoop, we sort of moved from a proteinopathy to a circuit disorder. Even more importantly, we now have the technology to do something with that information and genetically target therapies directly to the types of cells that are affected in disease. And put together, these things are really poised to change the field. We have the tools to describe at the level of the complex anatomy of the brain. We have the technologies to treat at that level as well. This is quite different from what is mostly happening in the field now to go after genes and molecular pathways in broad application. We can now be targeted to the specific brain anatomy affected in disease. Even with these technologies, really moving the needle in this field is going to be hard. But the time is right, and the opportunity has really never been greater to put the focus on human brain now and accelerate progress towards understanding and treatment. To do this, we need to accomplish a number of different things. We need innovation and innovative technologies to study the brain. We should incorporate the best the field has to offer and develop new technologies where we need them. We need the right scale of investment and coordinated execution to tackle this complexity. We need to generate the right kind of data to deeply describe disease. We need to share it openly with the community, and we need to combine this with powerful new analytical techniques, including advances in AI, to understand it. And we need collaboration and coordination on a scale that we've never really tried before. And with that, I'd like to introduce the Brain Health Accelerator, which is designed to catalyze all of these things and drive these technologies towards outcomes that matter for individuals suffering from disease. Brain Health will create a global collaborative initiative focused on human brain health and disease that first and foremost has a human-first philosophy. We need to start with understanding the human brain and what really happens across the course of disease, use that to generate models that recapitulate that rather than the other way around. We need to use those technologies to drive all the way to new therapies, to first-in-human applications of new therapies with the goal of understanding and treating disease at the level of the cells, of the brain's cells and circuits. This is not an ordinary initiative. I really want to highlight this. This problem is too urgent to stick with the status quo. We have to do things differently. We need to bring together different disciplines, and we did a lot of work canvassing the community and talking to different disease communities, and we heard the same things again and again. All these communities have the same problems. We need to tackle the whole problem space from start to finish or end to end. We need to take on systemic barriers and break down silos. We need to go upstream. We have to tackle issues related to brain donation and standardized collection of brain tissues for study. We need to link longitudinal studies of living patients with postmortem studies of brain mechanism. We need to modernize neuropathology. We need to link large-scale discovery science with advanced data modeling with preclinical therapeutic development. We need to link across disciplines, and we need to do it across diseases. Neurodegenerative diseases, potentially expanding to neurological, neurodevelopmental, neuropsychiatric diseases in the future. And we need to do it with the community and really have a model of radical collaboration and open science. We need to bring together different fields together for this goal. I want to give a little more flavor of the individual components of this. The first is an open science discovery engine. So this is what we're known for, bringing cutting-edge, high-information content, scalable technology to study the human brain in both health and disease. We already have tools for studying molecular and cellular organization, neuropathology. A whole new suite of technologies ready to apply to the human brain now to study connectivity, study brain function. We need to apply these technologies across diseases to understand the spectrum of neurodegenerative diseases as they affect the population. We plan to focus on ALS, Alzheimer's, Huntington's, Lewy body disorder, and Parkinson's disease. And we need to use these data to define disease trajectories, vulnerable cell populations, disease mechanisms, and the overlapping pathologies that are all too common in neurodegenerative conditions. And we aim to identify the mechanisms that drive disease and reveal new therapeutic opportunities to treat not just one, but many neurodegenerative diseases. These data can be used to power a whole new generation of disease models. And here we get the opportunity to take advantage of advances in AI to integrate across scales and across data types, from the molecular to the cellular to the circuit to the clinical, and really not integrate only our own data, but the community's data. With this reference, we have the unusual ability to aggregate and integrate and take advantage of the value of the entire community's data mapped into the system and modeled. We want to drive this to get a more complete understanding of disease and outcomes that matter for patients, earlier disease detection, new targets. This will be built for AI. Like LLMs for natural language, we want to learn the grammar and the syntax of disease. And finally, we'll build a precision medicine pipeline. And this pipeline is really to try to translate these discoveries into new therapeutic targets. The goal is really to take this idea of selectively targeting the cells and circuits that are most vulnerable or affected in disease. And if we can do this, we hope that that precision will give a much more safe and effective approach to treatments. This human-first approach also hopefully increases the likelihood that these discoveries will translate into positive patient outcomes. I'd like now to end by saying we can't do this alone. This is way too big. We got here through collaboration, and we understand how much quicker we can move if we work with others on this. And I'm extremely pleased to announce that we have a wonderful set of partners from the outset. I want to call it in particular the Bezos family, AWS, Everything ALS, and with enabling partnerships from NIH. And particularly would like to call out that collectively, now this is an enormous investment in this initiative, a $400 million investment with $200 million coming from the Allen and FFST, $100 million coming from the Bezos family, and $100 million coming from the combination of AWS, the NIH's enabling partnerships, and Everything ALS. I also want to mention that we're launching this on Lou Gehrig Day, which makes it a particularly significant event for our new partners in the ALS community. I also want to highlight that we have key neuropathology colleagues at the University of Washington and University of California, San Diego that are really essential for this program. And this joins a wide range of existing partnerships. We have many different partnerships that have been involved in these brain mapping and disease mapping studies. Brain health is designed to be a collaborative network that starts local but aims for global impact, and we're open for partnership. I'd like to just end to close with a sentiment and a truth that I hope that we all share. Understanding brings hope for individuals, for their families, for neighbors and friends who suffer and shouldn't have to face the challenges of brain disease alone. Thank you for being here. We look forward to embarking on this journey together, and we welcome you to join us in this grand challenge.
I remember it was September, and I had a little kind of putting green for grass, and when I would do my yard work, my hand would shake. And I of course thought it was the heat, because obviously extreme heat in Arizona. And then I noticed my arm wasn't swinging when I was walking. And I went to a general neurologist. It felt like she told me within 5 minutes. And I'm at this doctor's office by myself, and it's just like, you're out of your mind. You are out. You haven't even asked me anything about me. You know, you're just doing the tap, 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 draw a circle kind of thing, walk up and down the hallway, and it's like, yep, you've got it. It's not like when you're that young that you're thinking a neurological disorder, an incurable neurological disorder. So I don't really remember the conversation, but I do remember I was so grateful that the sun was stinging on my skin when I walked out of the Mayo Clinic, because it was something familiar. Because it felt like a bomb was just dropped in my lap. And I had to call my mom in Omaha, Nebraska, and tell her I had Parkinson's.
She's such a determined woman. She fights for what she wants. She's accomplished a lot in her career life. And her fight and determination with illnesses has amazed me for the courage that she has.
Brain diseases really represent the last frontier of health that we need to solve. 1 in 3 people worldwide, that's over 3 billion people, suffer from some form of neurologic condition. The societal need is huge. It's getting bigger. So we have to have a different approach to trying to make advances and accelerate our understanding and treatment of disease. Brain Health Accelerator is a new moonshot initiative focused on human brain health and disease. It's really intended as a global research consortium spearheaded by the Allen Institute. The scope of this problem really requires us to have larger coordinated efforts. Currently, Alzheimer's disease is one funding set of organizations, and Parkinson's is a different, and ALS is a different one. What we're trying to do here is to bring these different parts of the field together.
The ultimate goal is to learn as much as we can, as fast as we can, about neurodegenerative disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's, ALS. That will then accelerate our ability to develop experiments, to develop potential drugs, to develop potential interventions that will ultimately slow the process, prevent the process, or even cure these diseases. That's the ultimate goal.
There's really a clear path now from being able to understand disease at the level of component circuits and cells and treat disease at the level of component circuits and cells, because we have the tools to do that.
Yeah. Up a hook right. Up a hook right. Yeah. Under.
I found someone here that did neurological rehabilitation or physical therapy. And he's like, we're gonna box. I'm like, I don't know how to box. Because you don't have to. And being able to physically hit something, to feel stronger, to feel great. I mean, I'm no Muhammad Ali, but for an hour I feel like I am. I feel like I'm the champ.
It's really exciting to me that we have Parkinson's disease as part of the Brain Health Accelerator. In many ways, Parkinson's connects the other diseases because it affects both motor and cognitive.
This is just an astonishing advance that was really stimulated by the NIH Brain Initiative. And it presents an opportunity now to think of diseases as diseases of cell types in the brain and selective vulnerability of different kinds of cells that happen in sequence. If you have this kind of reference, you can now start to map disease trajectories. You can start to understand the types of cells and genes that are affected over the course of disease. And it brings the resolution that has been typically only found in the space of model organisms now to the human brain.
Well, I'm in awe of the scientists and the people that dedicate their lives to help individuals such as my daughter and many, many others going through the same thing.
We've got to figure out what we're going to do with these brain disorders and how we can better help patients live the healthiest, most productive life they can. We have to.
I think that we're really going to start to see new treatments come from this, and in particular these cell and circuit level therapies. It will take some time to find the right targets and to find the right patient populations, but I think that in the space of this project, we will actually begin to see a transformation.
This is the right time, this is the right place. This couldn't happen 5 years ago. Now is the time, and Brain Health is really taking advantage of the opportunity with these technologies, with the expertise, with the resources, with the community. It's going to be very, very special.
I have to say, how cute is my mom? I just get emotional watching it. So I just feel like I hit the trifecta. I have my mom, Stevie Nicks, and now the Allen Institute collectively wrapping their arms around me saying, we're going to figure it out. How cool is that? So I want to, as one of the millions of people living with a neurodegenerative disease, I'm so grateful, truly, truly grateful for all the collaborators and partners coming together for this Brain Health Accelerator. It's an honor and it's a privilege, truly, to be here. Please join me again in thanking them once again for their work and their incredible support. Lastly, we want to thank all of you for joining us today. We're going to take a short break. I heard there were tequila shots, but that's what, I don't know. And then we're going to see you upstairs in the cafe at noon for a lunch reception. Thank you again.